What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction as well as a seed-stealing Luca. And we're back to Ariel from Kate Bush, 2005. And I noticed when I queued up the next tune in the track listing, The Painter's Link, that it was incredibly short. So I've tacked on the following tune as well, which is Sunset. So yes, again, I know I'm not doing this whole side in unison or in successive or a singular listening. I'll explain it correctly yet. But the point is, I am going to do a 2-for-1 here. So yes, The Painter's Link, it's sort of like The Architect's Dream. It has a similar rhythm and a similar phrasing to it. I do wonder who the painter is and what link we're talking about. It could be a link to the source material. It could be a link to an emotion, a link to the appraiser or appreciator of the artwork. And of course, one can paint that is not in a context that's necessarily art. You can paint a house, and although you can do so artfully, I suppose, it's not the same as painting a portrait or a landscape. So yes, I wonder what kind of link we're talking about and how literally or figuratively the meaning could express itself. And then a sunset, that is itself very visual, something that you might actually paint, and it speaks to the end of a daily cycle. Of course, sunsets can be used in relation to the final phase of something's existence or something's life, and so a sunset can be expressed very figuratively, even if there is a visual referent, so, it functions on multiple levels. So it does seem like maybe there could be a connection between the two, the idea of a link in relation to an artist representing something, whether it's literally a sunset or the lifespan or terminal phase of something. And of course, it's not, thankfully, here on Earth, the end of the world or the end of a lifespan when it comes to a singular day in terms of the sun rising, the sun setting. So it could be part of a rebirth or a renaissance, if you will. So maybe none of this will be relevant, but I do think both titles have a poetry to them, even though one of them is a single word. Let's give them a listen. This is Kate Bush. The tracks are The Painter's Link followed by Sunset, and they're both from her Ariel album, 2005.
It's raining. What has become of my painting? All the colors are running. So all the colors are running. So all the colors run. See what they have become. A wonderful sunset. Could be honeycomb in a sea of honey, a sky of honey, a shadow long and low, slip in and out of wet clothes and changes into the most beautiful iridescent blue. feel lost. Let's say goodbye to the day before it dies. In a sea of honey, a sky of honey. Keep us close to your hearts, so if the skies stay dark, we may live on in comets and stars. Who knows who wrote that song of summer? The blackbirds sing at dusk. This is a song of color. We're singing crimson, red, and rust, and climb into bed and turn to dust. Who knows who wrote that song of summer? The blackbirds sing at dusk. This is a song of color. We're singing crimson, red, and rust, and climb into bed and turn to dust.
Her ears perked up at that. Incredible, amazing, and I do think they link directly together. Again, I get it. The whole side of the album does that. And fair to say, we did hear reference to both A Sea of Honey and A Sky of Honey. More on that in a moment. But yes, I feel like it's fortuitous that I did these two together, because literally the idea of colors running on a painting and maybe blending together, then making it look like a sunset, leads into the song Sunset. And yeah, I mean, so much to say. Let me try to organize my thoughts here. I'll start with the themes, and not just that one seemed to lead directly into the other. I do wonder who that male vocal was on the first track, by the way. But yeah, so okay, I'm thinking immediately of, yes, indeed, when you blend colors and there's not, starkly one color and then another color and another color, when they start to bleed into each other, there's more of a prism, more of a progression of hue, and that is very much what it's like at magic hour. And she makes reference to dusk and the blackbirds singing in dusk. And anyone who spends a lot of time up right at the magic hour, either during sunrise or sunset, will be aware, because the angle of the sun is like at a very low sitting, like sharp angle. Not only are the shadows long behind you, but the sky isn't blue yet, or it's no longer blue if it's sunset. And then you get those brilliant hues of red and orange and purple, like across the sky, pink clouds and so on. And so, number one, it is more conducive to a beautiful view, to a wonderful painting, and thus the idea of catching the end of the cycle of a day, there is some special quality to that. And then when you add the larger scope of meaning, that indeed it's the end of a cycle, it's the death of a given day, and ultimately a hint at the rebirth of the next day, but also with the stars and the moon in between, and these cycles speak to the nature of life and death and birth and so on. So I feel like there's a lot of that actually happening here. And then when you talk about a sea of honey and a sky of honey, anyone who's seen a sunset across a large body of water, and where you can see the sun literally coming down on the horizon and being cast across the water, and there's this rich golden orange hue across the water and across the sky, it's not only a breathtaking sight to behold, but there is some special, almost like emotional quality that it can give you if you are attuned to paying attention to these things and thinking about our place here on Earth and the larger forces in the solar system and so on. So like, not that there's necessarily any like astronomical meaning here, but I think the idea about cycles, both natural, shall we say, and biological, and diurnal and nocturnal, I think they all come to a very visual representation in the wording that is being used in the tune. And again, like referencing the first side of the album, the second side of the album, that itself is a sort of cycle, and a beginning and an end, a birth and a death. So I feel like there's a lot of conceptual meaning just like dripping off of this tune, running down the track like paint on a canvas that has been rained on. So just an incredible overlaying and synthesis of meaning in this track as set up by the track, the painter's link, which like, again, like the painter's link to all this meaning and to all these visual sights, like maybe there's a more specific meaning, maybe I'm not catching all the details, but what I am taking away from it from a first listen is like very profound. It has my brain sort of like percolating with thought and emotion. So that's a testament to the composition of the tune thematically. Then we get to the sonics. We have what I believe is a contrabass, like a stand-up contrabass, being plucked in a sort of mellow style, but not unlike those kind of smooth, slow, like jazz rhythms where you see people playing a stand-up bass. But then we have those warm, rich piano chords, which give me a bit of the feeling of that bright orange and golden hue of a sunset. There's some beautiful moments where like the different elements are blending together, again, like the colors of the song perhaps, and then Kate's beautiful voice. And then suddenly halfway through it launches into this faster pace and almost like this Latin folk style rhythm. And this is a really sort of left field reference, but there's a beautiful old tune of 90s video game music from Chrono Cross called Scars Left by Time, which a phrase that I think also has a lot of poetry and speaks to the lifespan of something. But that song, it's sort of slow and sweet and smooth, and halfway through it launches, and this acoustic guitar starts playing double time, and it has, again, like this folk, almost Latin feel to it, or maybe Celtic feel, and it just becomes this different tune with more energy, more percussive cycling, And so, of course, my brain is thinking of that when that transition happens in this tune. And then as it goes on even more, the bigger drum hits become prominent, and the force or the power of the whole experience starts hitting home in a more literal sense. So, just incredible composition sonically, but also chronologically. The sequencing of the tune was beautiful and took me by surprise at that transition, and yet I think it's exactly what the tune needed without knowing that. And that is itself, again, like this, there's one phase of the song, and then it's overtaken by the other phase, and given all the other cycles and beginnings and endings, the births and the deaths that the song makes me think of, that again feels like a possibility for a rebirth after the song ends. So the whole thing is just an incredible artistic, poetic, and illustrative experience. So I don't know what else I can say about it. I'm sure, again, I'm missing details, maybe even misassigning some of the meanings that I'm interpreting on this first listen, but fantastic, beautiful, wonderful, even if I'm slightly off base here. So what an incredible pair of tunes. Definitely something that's going to stick with me and I'm going to have to re-listen to and enjoy in a very immersive respect. Do let me know what you think, and Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.